Tanya for the 14th of Tammuz, but first the story. There was one of the Hasidim of R Zusha of Anapoli in the early days who used to come to R Zusha, and he was a very, very wealthy man. And he would come, he would give Zusha donations of tzedakah, of places that he could give tzedakah to. And he was very helpful in supporting R Zusha, and he became very wealthy. And over the years, he got wealthier and wealthier. And one time, he traveled to Anapoli to visit his Rebbe Reb Zusha. And when he arrives, the wife of Reb Zusha tells this wealthy chassid, Reb Zusha's not in town. She says, "Okay, where is he?" So he tells him he's gone to Mizrich. So the chassid asked him, "What's he doing in Mizrich?" And Reb Zusha's wife told him he went to his Rebbe, the Maggid of Mezrich. So the Chassid said, okay. So he left. And on the way back home, he started thinking a little. He thought to himself, I've been supporting Reb Zusha so well over all these years. And I've done very well for myself. I'm a very wealthy man. And I've only gone to Reb Zusha. But now that I know Reb Zusha has a Rebbe, and if I go to his Rebbe and I give money to his Rebbe instead to the Maggid message, imagine how wealthy I'll be. And so from that point onwards, he no longer visited Reb Zusha. He would go straight to the Maggid. He'd give a kavitzel, he'd give a letter to the Maggid, he'd give the money, the tzedakah to the Maggid, and he stopped supporting Reb Zusha, and very quickly he started losing his money. Until he lost a tremendous amount of money, and he started making accounting. What am I doing wrong? And he couldn't understand. His logic was good. He knew that it made sense. If I gave Reb Zusha and I was wealthy, giving to the Maggid, I'd be so much wealthier. But he decided the best thing he could do is bring the question to Reb Zusha. So he traveled to Reb Zusha, and he told Reb Zusha, "I have a question for you. I supported you along all these years, and I was so wealthy. And now I came to the Maggid." So Reb Zusha explained to him like this. He said, when you gave me money, you gave your money to someone that was entirely undeserving." Reb Zusha was a very humble man. And he said, "You gave it to me. I don't deserve to have money. There's no reason for you to give me money." But in Shamayim, in heaven, they made an accounting. They said, "Wait a second. This man is so unspecific or uncaring about where his money goes. We won't be very specific with him. Whether he truly deserves to have money and deserves to be wealthy, he's giving his money in a way where he's not determining who deserves it and who doesn't deserve it. Because he's even giving to Reb Zusha. In Shamayim, they said, you know what, we'll even make him wealthy." Reb Zusha said, the second that you started working out who really deserves the money, where the best place to put the money is, even if your calculations were good, in Shamayim, in heaven, they were saying, wait a second, he's determining where the best place to give the money is. We'll determine too. And they made a determination that you're not the best place to give the money. And from that point onwards, this man started supporting Reb Zusha again. The Tanya so far, we've been talking about teshuvah. We made it clear from the onset what teshuvah is halachically speaking. It's just abandonment of sin. We made it clear that fasting has nothing to do with teshuvah, though we did explain that fasting does have a place after teshuvah has been accomplished to make one's relationship with Hashem back to the way it was before one sinned, but not in the actual teshuvah process itself. Fasting has nothing to do with the process. We then spoke about a technicality about what if a person does multiple sins, what does one do regarding the fasting afterwards, and we unpacked that and we spoke about it. And then in yesterday's Tanya, in chapter 4, we're starting to unpack what is teshuvah according to Kabbalah, according to Chassidus. What does teshuvah look like? And we explained that teshuvah can be broken up into two parts: tashuv, returning, and the hay. And we explained there's two levels in Shuvah. There's a higher level of Shuvah and there's a lower level of Shuvah. The first hay in Hashem's name, Yud, and then hay, and then Vav, and then hay. The first hay, when one returns that hay, that's called Shuvah Ilah. It's a higher level of Shuvah. When a person returns the latter hay, the second hay in Hashem's name, that's called Shuvah Tata. That's the lower level. We also asked the question, how does Karis and Shuvah, how does Karis and death by heaven work? We explained that Karis works, but a person passes away before 50 years, and death from heaven works that a person passes away before 60 years. And we said, but wait a second. Nowadays, we see people that deserve Karis, we see people that deserve death by heaven, and they live not just long lives, but pleasant lives. showing clearly they're not even getting the scouring or the hitting by the stick like we talked about, but they're living very long and successful days. What's going on? What does that actually mean now? Charis and death by heaven. What is it, and how does it work nowadays? And we're gonna talk about the answer of these as we go through the third book. And now let's begin today's Tanya. We're going to continue on the same theme, and we're going to talk now about what actually goes on when a person sins and what goes on when a person does shuvah. And now we're going to talk about that by understanding the soul. Acha inyan yuvon. In order to understand this, we need to understand Alpima Shekosov Kichelek Havaya Amoy. There's a pasuk that says in Devarim, it says Kichelek Havaya, a portion of Hashem, a part of Hashem, Amoy are the Jewish people. What does this mean? Instead of saying a portion of Hashem, what we're saying is Chelek Mishem Havaya Baruch Hu. The Jewish people, they are a part of the four-letter name of Hashem. Now, what does that mean? That we're a part of Hashem, of the four-letter name of Hashem. It means that Hashem gives into us a part of himself. Like it's written, Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chaim. When talking about the soul of Adam, when Hashem creates Adam, there's a physical aspect of creating Adam, and just like in every human being, from that point on onwards, there's a soul and there's a body. So when it comes to the actual soul, it says that Hashem blew the soul into the nostrils of the soul of a soul of life into Adam. Why blowing? Why not placing? Why not talking? Why not thinking? Why blowing? And the Zohar writes on this, and we already quoted the Zohar once in the Tanya, when someone blows, they blow from deep within inside themselves. So when Hashem gave the soul to Adam, when Hashem subsequently gives us a soul, this comes from deep within Hashem. This comes from the Yud Kei Vav Kei energy. Now, of course, as Al-Tabba does many times in the Tanya, when Al-Tabba gives us illustration, Al-Tabba says, let's not get carried away. Hashem doesn't have any bodily form, so we're saying Hashem blew a part of himself. What does that even mean? So the Al-Tabba says, the Torah speaks in the language of man, anthropomorphically. The Torah gives us illustration that we can understand. Of course, it's not really the way it is, because Hashem isn't a human being. Hashem is entirely not constricted by any type of parameters that we could possibly think of. At the same time, for us to understand, at least in analogy, anthropomorphically, we give descriptions to Hashem. And the Alter is going to explain why. What's the goal? What are we trying to explain by giving descriptions and saying that Hashem blew a soul into us? Second point of today's Sunday. Just like there's a big difference, and everyone understands, that when a person blows from his mouth, just like everyone understands, there's a big difference between when a person speaks and when a person blows. When a person speaks, a person can speak for hours on end without tiring. Literally talking and talking and talking and talking and just not stopping. Some people struggle to stop at all. And they don't tire, but when someone blows, you take a deep breath in and you start to blow, how long could one go? 10 seconds, 20 seconds, someone's powerful, 30 seconds maybe. And then they're done. They're absolutely exhausted. Why? Because when a person blows, it comes from deep within inside themselves. When a person talks, the oxygen the air that comes from their mouth when they talk is very minimal. A person could literally feel the difference between talking and blowing. Says the Alter Rebbe, that's the reason why we give the imagery of Hashem blowing the soul into Adam Rishon. Kacha mamash aderech mashal hamavdil havdalas la'inket. So too, but of course with an infinite difference, because we're talking about Hashem and creation. So there's, but the illustration there, the imagery is what we're trying to get to. Yesh hefresh otzum oid lamayla. So too, there's a difference above. Bein kol tzava shamayim v'afilu hamalachim shenivru ma'ayin liyesh v'chayim v'kayim v'chinas v'tzoynes achayis ha'shefesh ha'shviya ein tzei baruch hu l'achayis l'hachis ha'ilmus. There's a big difference above between all the heavenly hosts, the angels that were created something from nothing, and the soul of a person. These get their existence from Hashem. And this power comes from the breath of Hashem's man, the breath of Hashem's mouth, and this is what everything was created for. V'hi b'chinas chayes hamulbeshes ba'ishes b'sar mamayis shehem b'chinas kelim hamshachas u'chulu k'mo shespai b'lekutam b'chelik beis perik yud aleph. Uvei nishmas ha'adam shenimshachat tchila b'chinas p'nimas ha'chayes ha'shefa shemashpia ein seh baruch hu k'mo shekasav v'yipach v'chulu. There's a big difference between all of creation and the soul of a person. All of creation is getting its energy from the speech of Hashem. Hashem is talking, like we spoke about already a few times in the Tanya. The Hashem talks and creates everything into actual existence. All of creation, including the highest aspects of creation, all get their energy from Hashem's speech. And then, and what's the difference between and the soul of a man? The soul of a person comes from deep within Hashem. It comes from blowing. Everything else comes from speech. The soul of a man then goes on a massive journey downwards. Although it comes from the highest aspects, in order to be in this world, it needs to be in a physical body. The physical body comes from the statement, speech of "Let us make man," and then the soul, which is coming from the breath of the blowing of Hashem, comes into our body, and like everything else, it is created from the speech. But what we're seeing is there's a big difference between even the highest of angels and the soul of a Jew. The soul of a Jew comes from the highest point. It comes from deep within Hashem, from the blowing, and the angels come from speech. When we talk about angels, although they're so great and they're so powerful, we use the word Elikim. And there's some examples. Like it's written, Ki Hashem Elokeichem hu Elokei Elikim. For Hashem, your God, He's the God of the angels. Hoidul Elokei Elikim. Praise the God of God. And again, this is the God of the angels. V'yavoyo b'nei Elikim li'satzev. And the sons of God came to present themselves. And again, Elikim over here is a reference to angels. Because they're getting their energy from the letters, and this is external. And the name Elikim is an external compared to Yud Kei Vav Kei. So you have two names of Hashem. You have Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is the internal aspect within Hashem. You have Elikim, which is the external aspect within Hashem. And now, to tie into the beginning of today's Tanya, the soul of a man comes from the inner part of Hashem's energy, and this means that it is a part of the Yud Kei Vav Kei energy. Because the Yud Kei Vav Kei name of Hashem refers to the inner energy of Hashem, which is much higher than actual letters. Just to summarize today's Tanya, we started off explaining that the Jewish people are part of Hashem, and this means they are part of the four-letter name of Hashem. And Hashem blew into the nostrils of Adam, and it says that when one blows from the inner part of oneself. So when the soul of Adam and Rishon came from deep within Hashem. And then we explained that although Hashem is not like us, the Torah speaks anthropologically, and therefore, just as there's a big difference between the energy that comes through blowing and talking, so too with Hashem. Hashem created everything in creation, including the highest of angels, from Hashem's speech, but the soul of a man comes from deep within Hashem, and it comes from the blowing, not from the talking. And the final point of today's Tanya is the soul comes from Hashem's four-letter name of Hashem. Everything else and the angels all come from Shem Elokim, come from the external aspect of Hashem, a name that represents externality. Thank you so much for joining the Tanya. Tanya said, Nishmas five of Elias ben Yamin Halevi Moshe Aaron Akain ben Yosef Reuven ben Emmanuel Aaron ben Avram Esther Esther Moshe ben Chayil Pasvei Bas Shana Rezi Eliel Moshe ben Avram Sarah Miriam Bas Chaim Yamin Chaim Mushka Bas Shem ben Avram and Fu Shlem for Yaakov ben Aaron ben Nasbat Rat Caleb Bas Chaim Mushka Bracham ben Moshe ben Esther ben Ahmed ben Leil Leah Bas Yanni Yosef ben Shana Sarah, and anyone else needs to fruition the success of all the Jews around the world, especially those in Israel, as a successful soldier to defend the Jewish people and becoming Mashiach. Have a wonderful and very successful day, and thanks so much for joining.